It's Mike B with Bombero Bus out here at the barn with Roxanne, and today we're going to rebuild both of her carburetors. They are Empi EPC 34s that came with the engine when I got it. They've been running good, but it's time for a rebuild of them, and that is my first time doing it, so I decided to make a video in case it's helpful to any other newer people. I am a self-admitted Volkswagen amateur and enthusiast, so you might hear some incorrect terminology along the way, or see some things that I could improve on, or maybe even just did wrong. So hopefully that's not the case, but if it is, please feel free to leave any comments, and if you find the video helpful, feel free to like and subscribe. Let's get to it. I've got it off. The first thing I'm going to do is take out this mixture screw, and so I know what mine is set to. We won't talk about that here, but you should know how many turns to the left yours is, so that you can get it back in the ballpark when you go to set it up. But for now, I'm just going to go ahead and take mine out, set it over there. Your idle jet right here, pop that out. That just goes in until it's snug. There's no adjustment of that. There's going to be an O-ring on there that we're going to inspect also, and hopefully will come with your rebuild kit. I would recommend using it, but this one here, the O-ring, well, it's got a little notch in it. I can't tell if that's the way it came or if that's from being in there, but it's not too bad. So idle jet, that out. All that'll get cleaned out. Put it over there. You got your fuel inspection plug here. It's a 19 millimeter. So we're going to pop that off. And when you do, you'll see a fuel filter in there. And unfortunately, I don't have a new one. These clean up really well. But you can tell if you're not careful, and in time, they're just small plastic. They can get twisted. It's best to have a new one of these. But if you don't, I found that you can kind of reshape this and get it in there with caution, and they still work fine. But it's a good chance to look. There it is. I've got some metal in there, and that is probably from my old fuel tank. And so if you look down here, to no surprise, there it is. That's that red rust. Now, this is over a long period of time, but I suspect that's still coming from my fuel tank. And I also see some of that in my fuel filter from time to time. So if you've got one of these old air-cooled VWs, that's just a part of it until you get a brand new fuel tank or your old one resealed, etc. So now we're going to go ahead and take this top plate off. There's just 4 screws here. We'll pop them off. Save them on the side for cleaning. For a magnetic screwdriver would be handy. All right, we'll pop the top off and see what we're looking like. I'm not worried about this gasket because our rebuild kit came with a new one. But if you ever have to pop this off and you don't have a new gasket, try and take caution. And perhaps you have to reuse it. There you see your float. We'll check the play on that. See if it's opening and closing properly. And this is really all I needed to work on. But like I said, we're going to take this chance to do a complete rebuild. We can bet that the seat on that is probably bad. So we'll set that to the side. And there's one more thing we're going to do here that comes with our rebuild kit. We'll look down in there at that bowl. So you can see that, more of that red rust. All right, the jets inside are, on this one, you got your main jet right there. We'll take that out in a minute. You're gonna have your fuel inlet for your pump jet. Fuel goes through there, travels through that little channel and comes out at your pump jet. This one here, that's your main, and below that, that's your main jet. Below that is your emulsifier. And we'll take those out in a minute. What we're gonna do is go ahead and get this diaphragm off before I pop the last screw. You can tell what's going on here whenever you give it gas. This mechanism here pushes in on a diaphragm, and again, fuel is forced through that channel and up out your pump jet. Let's go ahead and take that off. Because in this rebuild kit that I got, this particular one, as was from J-Bugs, it also has a new diaphragm in it. So we're gonna take this time to put that in there too. And then you'll find out that the whole thing is spring activated right there. And we'll pop this off. This is the diaphragm. Your accelerator pump. And that one's not in bad shape. But when you get a rebuild kit that has new gaskets, might as well use them. Okay, now we'll take those jets out I was talking about. That one down there, that's your main. Again, they're just snugged in there. There's your fuel inlet for your pump jet here. Gives you the squirt. And then we'll take out the main. This particular one, let's see if we can read the size on it. Now, it's right there. And then underneath that is the emulsifier. But this is your air correction jet. And your emulsifier is down in there. There it is, broken down mostly. We're gonna just clean it with carburetor cleaner from there. Clean out the jets. I'll show you what's in this rebuild kit. Show you a little closer look. You also get an intake manifold gasket should you need it. But we'll be using one of these. We'll size them up, see which one fits. The diaphragm pump, it's going to go there. This float valve here, we'll see if it's like my other one. When I got these EPC 34s, they came with what looked to be bigger and beefier float valves. And I suspect they were actual Weber pieces. So these rebuild kits seem to come with a cheaper, more rinky-dink looking valve. So that's a good thing about being able to replace them. So we'll take a little break. We'll come back and start cleaning it up. Okay, we got the top off, and that's what this is really all about, was doing this float work. So if you'll see, there's just a pin there. All you gotta do is grab it. You pull that pin out, and your float has been released. This is an example of the difference. The Weber float is made out of brass. And you can see this is just a plastic or neoprene. A little bit cheaper, but easily replaceable. We'll set that there and clean it up in a little bit. Then the gasket comes off. Like I said, I didn't mind tearing it because we got a brand new one we're gonna put on there, and you know, that one doesn't look great anyway. You pull out your needle. This one is not in bad shape, but we're gonna keep it aside and put in the new one anyway. What happens is this is that's just a little neoprene in itself. See it bend? And they say if you have, these are very particular about how much fuel pressure they receive, because this is not a very good plug against pressure. So these have to be 2.5 PSI, 3 at the most, coming to this carburetor, or it'll push right past this seat and flood your carbs and your intakes. So we'll just set that to the side. And then this valve, I'm gonna go ahead and take this off. Remember what size this was. It's a 10. We're gonna get that off, and I'll show you the difference in this one and the replacement. So like I said, these carbs were in the bus when I got them. I don't know what was original to this carburetor, if the previous owner put these in here or not. But look at that seat right there. Yeah, not in great shape. All smashed and misshapen. But what I wanted to show you was the difference in this one that I pulled out and the one they sent. Now, I already know they're going to work, but the difference appears to be just overall quality, I guess. If you look at this one, the original, there it is stamped on it that it's a 200, if you can see that. And it's got a little like inspection hole here, so as the needle travels up and down, you can witness it through that hole. This one that comes in the rebuild kit does not have that. There's no number or size stamped on it. And if you look down there, to me, the original seems to have a little bit of a larger diameter. So this could very well change things. If I go with these, I'm probably going to keep the original ones in there and just change the needle in the seat itself and keep the original valve. Just wanted you to know the difference in what you might find in your carb versus what comes in the rebuild kit. Something very important. I probably won't do it on this one, but if you're gonna pull this pump jet on an EPC 34, you see that BB? As the light hit it, there's a BB in there. You need to be very careful when you pull this pump jet out, if you do, that BB doesn't go flying, because it will. It'll pop right out and go flying, never to be found again, and you'll be in trouble. And besides that, inside this actual pump jet, if I was to pick this up and pull it out, is another little valve and another small BB. And they're very particular about how they get stacked in there. So I'm not even gonna pull it on this one. I will squirt it out and blow air through there and clean it, but I'm not gonna mess with it this time. However, if you do, be advised about those BBs, man. Don't let them fly out on you. There it is, relatively clean. I just sprayed it with the carb cleaner. Be careful whenever you're spraying into any of these passages. They're gonna spray out somewhere else. Have some iPro on, or keep your face away from it. You know, it's clean enough. You can tell I'm not ready to soak that just yet. And all I've done is put the jets back in that I took out. And this is the part that I'd like you to see. And we're gonna put the new diaphragm and spring into the pump. So this spring goes in here. This goes up against it, and just gonna push down on it and try to hold it there until you can get this up on it and push down. Now you got to hold that there. Make sure your gaskets are all lined up, and just usually get one screw going, enough to where you can kind of let it go. And we can see that the gaskets are lining up pretty good. Let me get a light on that one. I'm gonna put it lightly on there until we get the other two. And always double check and look through there, make sure you didn't fold up your gasket and that you have a clear passage, and then you're home free from there. Okay, now that the accelerator pump is put back together, we've looked through our kit here and we found a particular gasket for this one. It's going to be self-explanatory because all holes will line up. And what you want to remember is to put this on before, and flip it over and put it on that side. You want to put that on before you assemble your float. So if you recall, I'm going to use the original that came out, which I think, float valve, which I think is a Weber piece. It's a 200 and the diameter of that hole looked bigger. I was happy with the way the carbs were running. I don't want to change it to this one that came with the rebuild kit that appears to have a smaller hole and is more rinky-dink. So I am going to use the new needle, and I've already put that in there and mic'd it out in comparison to this one, and they mic'd out the exact same. So I'm not going to be afraid to try it, and you know, we'll go from there. Another thing I should mention is when I opened this up, you see this clip? Neither one of my needles in my carbs had that clip, but they were running fine. Since I got these, I'm going to use them, and you can see what it's going to do in there is it helps assist with the lifting and closing of that needle into the seat. So mine didn't have them, but since these came with it, I'm going to try them, and we'll just go from there. Not going to over tighten it, just going to snug it in there. The same with all these other jets. They don't get over tightened. You just snug them in there. Well, this will give you an example of what's going to happen here. The needle goes in. And then remember our pin. You gotta get things lined up just right, and they'll push on through. So now you'll see what goes on with that float. You can see the BB on there. It's pushing down on it. You got some float travel, and then it raises up and down. And of course, this whole top is upside down, but you can get a gist of what it's got going on. So, nothing left to do. Flip this over. Well, first you want to make sure you're set with your float height, and I am. I like the way this one is, so there's nothing left to do for me. Put this on with the gasket and get my 4 top screws back in and reinstall it. There it is. The job is complete, and it feels really good and satisfying to have both of those carburetors cleaned and built up. So remember, like and subscribe if it helped you at all. Leave some tips and comments if it didn't. In the future, we have barn bus that we're in the process of trying to acquire and get over here right now. So stay with us and check that out too.